So thank you for being here today at our virtual luncheon. This is a very important fundraiser for us that we honestly would not be able to do without the support of our many sponsors. You'll hear about who our sponsors are in just a minute. And I just want to encourage you to stick with this program. It's not very long today, but it's got some great information in it. There's some speakers that I know you will appreciate what they have to say, and it'll bring more meaning to you for what CASA is about. But basically, we are a volunteer organization. We recruit and train volunteers who become an arm of the court, and they walk alongside children who are in the foster care child welfare system. And they support them through advocacy and through mentorship and in so many ways. They often are the only consistent person in these children's lives. And adult children who are in foster care, who had a CASA, often contact us looking for their CASA, talking about how much their CASA meant to them and how they changed their lives. So I want to thank you for being here today. I want to thank our sponsors for all the support that they've given us so that we can do this event. And please enjoy yourselves. Thank you.
Part of the reason why I appreciate and serve as a board member for CASA is I have a unique perspective on what a child goes through from the legal side of the system when their life is disrupted from abuse or addictive behavior of their parents. And it's really difficult for us to see on a daily basis as responding officers what these children go through. It really pulls on our heart. And when I found an opportunity to serve on the CASA board, it was a no-brainer for me. And it has been one of the most enriching and rewarding parts of my service to our community is the amount of time and effort and support that I can give to this amazing staff and this mission to serve children. And I appreciate everyone for helping us in that mission and for being here at this luncheon. In Medford, we take pride in our community, and as everyone knows, children are our future, and it's really important to give even these children, all children, the same support and love so in the future our community continues to grow and flourish. And that's why we appreciate our service at CASA, and it has a lot of meaning.
Now let's recognize our sponsors. Our presenting sponsor is Jeannie Taylor. Our platinum sponsors are Harry and David, KDRV12, and NIC Industries. Our gold sponsors are Avista, Foster Denman, Evanco Gardens, Gary and Judy Correpta, Lithia for Kids, Rogue Credit Union, S&B James Construction, Sassool Engineering, Southern Oregon Subaru, Two Rivers Legal, Ward Insurance, and Jim and Judy Wright. And our table sponsors, Linda Baskin, the Honorable Ben Bloom and Laura Bloom, Boise Cascade, Mark and Laura Cromwell, Daniel Delgado, Jim and Pam Garrison, JWA Public Affairs, Ray Kessler, Kessler Small and White Architects, the Honorable Charles Kochlex, Mahar Homes Incorporated, Moss Adams, Steve and Melanie Olsrud, Oregon Health Insurance Marketplace, Rubicon Investments, Southern Oregon Credit Service Incorporated, Star Body Works and 24-Hour Towing, and Supercuts.
During our luncheon this year, we're going to hear from the following speakers.
Well, first I want to say that, I think CASA sincerely is the greatest volunteer job ever. They certainly make a difference in young people's lives. I mean, all these kids in foster care have been traumatized, either by the actions of their parents or the removal from their parents. And so CASAs provide a stable, positive influence for young people, whether it be by taking an interest or sharing an interest, skateboarding, Minecraft, pickleball, guitar, whatever it is, and it really makes a difference in these young people's lives. And it's really a fantastic help for the court because we have a lot of reading to do. The DHS family reports are very long, and so CASA can give us a snapshot, a context in a 2-page report that we read first. So they are very much a part of the juvenile system here, juvenile dependency caseload. And then, where else could you be an advocate in court without going to law school? So we really rely on our CASAs. I think it's a great job and it's a great organization to support.
Hi, my name is Daniel Delgado. I'm a board member for CASA of Jackson County and Josephine County. I'd like to share a little bit of why I became involved with CASA. As a child, I grew up in the foster care system. I was involved with DHS at the age of 4 and had multiple placements and was on the run for a little bit with my family before we were found when I was 8 years old in Texas. DHS had a pickup order to come pick us up from Texas and fly us back to Medford, where my involvement with the agency really began and continued. When I got taken at 8 years old, I was with my brother and my little sister. The plan was to keep us together. However, I was very angry, wanted to be back with my mom, and so I would self-sabotage, punch holes in walls, tear out insulation, get in fights with foster kids, and need to be moved. And so my fight and desire to get back with my mom led to me self-sabotaging my placements and just being really difficult. I had a lot of anger, and this anger just got me in a lot of trouble as a juvenile. Spent time in the youth shelter, spent time in JDH. Really didn't have any direction in life. Back at that time, I was just trying to survive. I didn't think of how being separated from my siblings was going to affect them. I was just in survival mode. And so as a junior, I had 5 and something credits towards high school. And I was pretty at risk of failing and dropping out when I had gone to this foster home my junior year at 16. They told me about a program called OICP, Oregon Youth Challenge, and I went there, was able to do a good job, get 10 credits in 6 months, and have a shot at graduating high school. One thing that I think about today is that I actually never had a CASA growing up. And looking back, I wonder how much could have been different had I had a CASA. When I first found out about CASA, I was doing my court classes for RCC, observing some court proceedings. And I actually met a CASA at one of these court proceedings and inquired about what she did. That led to me knowing about CASA and wanting to volunteer. So I called CASA, came to an orientation, met with Winona, and that's where I began my CASA journey in 2019 as a volunteer. I was really amazed by the amount of authority or power that a CASA has in court. For a volunteer role, it's really amazing. I always think that it would be really hard to do this type of job if you weren't empowered in the work that you do. And so knowing that you do have the power in a courtroom and you're there for all the big decisions for a child is really important and feels great. CASA has been one of the best volunteer services I've ever been able to do. It's a line of work that I truly believe in, and it's an area of real need. Every year there's youth without CASAs who can absolutely use the advocacy, such as myself when I was a child. Today I see CASAs in court regularly advocating, and they're at all the important decisions for the children in care. In my time as being a board member, I've got to meet some other board members who are very genuine people that I really enjoy working with. And over the last couple of months, I've just been trying to find out where my spot is on this board. And I think that my spot is really in advertisement and raising CASA awareness and volunteers and support in our community.
COVID made a huge difference to our program in so many ways. Number one, kids were isolated at home. They were out of the eyes of mandatory reporters, teachers, physicians. Situations escalated very quickly with the stressors being on, additional stressors being on parents. With their kids isolated at home, people losing their jobs, this really turned child welfare on its head. We didn't see as many cases open up because, again, those children were out of the eyes of mandatory reporters, and now we are seeing those cases open up, and they are worse than the cases we saw pre-pandemic. So we need more CASAs to help those kids, and therefore we need more funding. It's just how it works. Every CASA does this for free. We have over 250 CASAs every year who are serving over 700 children a year, and they do it for nothing. So our program takes a dime and turns it into $1. But we can't do it without community support. We've got to have 80% of our funding comes from the community and donors, local foundations, our fundraisers. And during COVID, we couldn't do our fundraisers. So we lost that funding too.
So we got a phone call from DHS asking if we were open for placement of a little girl. We just had 3 kids that went home, and I was a little hesitant, but I said, okay, yeah, we're open for placement for 1 kid. How old is she? And they said, well, she was born this morning. And so we loaded up and we went to the hospital, and she was in the NICU where she stayed for two, maybe 3 days. Before we got to bring her home.
She was so tiny.
So tiny. She weighed just over 5 pounds, just itty bitty. It was very difficult. Amelia would cry uncontrollably. She would spit up a lot. She had a problem swallowing, so we had a lactation consultant come out and show us like different techniques that we could use so that she would actually be able to swallow the milk and not just spit it up. And so she was there a lot during the day. Mike and I still worked full time, even though we had a newborn baby at home, and my mom was there to help out. And it was not easy because right off the bat, then DHS wanted us to start doing visits with mom. So in the middle of the craziness of having a newborn and working and having other kids, we were also going to the visit center, which was, at the time it was really difficult. It ended up being great because we became very close with the birth mom, and we were able to really support her through the whole process, really. It's also a struggle of finding what the right thing to do is. You know, you as a foster parent, you always want to try really hard to the reunification route where it's appropriate. In this case, her birth mother struggled. She would try really hard, but she would struggle. So we would try to just be as supportive as possible and try to get her to a place where she could get her daughter back. But there has to be a lot of commitment, and there wasn't. And so then it becomes like, okay, well, she's got biological family that lives elsewhere. Is the right thing for her to stay with us and us to fight for her to stay because she only knows us as mom and dad? Or is the right thing for her to go and grow up with her biological family? You know, what's the right call? Really, because that question is going to come down maybe 10, 15 years later when the child starts asking questions. And, you know, is it better to have her lose out on her mom and dad now, but be with biological family later? I don't know. I don't know what the right thing to do is.
In the beginning, it was, okay, she's going down there, that's probably the right move. And then it was such more back and forth, and then she got older and older, and then we were like, I don't think it's a good idea.
Mickey became our CASA just a few months after Amelia was born, I think maybe within the first 4 months. She was really a huge support system for biological mom and was able to bridge that gap between DHS and mom. There was a lot of hesitation between Amelia's birth mom and DHS. She doesn't have a whole lot of trust in the system, and so having Mickey there to explain some of the conversation in a way that she could understand it was super helpful. She showed up to every single one of our court hearings. She was able to not only, you know, bond with Amelia and kind of relay how Amelia was doing in our home with her birth mom, which was incredible. It was super helpful. I think it put her birth mom at ease. You know, I mean, there's never a lack of love when it comes to parents getting their kids taken away. It's never because they don't love them. So knowing that her daughter is in a home where she's loved and she's wanted and she's happy was super helpful for her.
Yeah, to have somebody there to explain it to her was very, very helpful.
A lot of support from DHS that showed up. Amelia's attorney was there. All of our family, both my side and Mike's side, Amelia's biological family showed up to support us.
People that didn't have to be there showed up.
Yeah. Judge Bloom was super great. He got up and he gave this beautiful speech. His speech was absolutely beautiful.
We're the first group that he's done since COVID started, right?
Yeah, in person, yeah.
Yeah, in person.
I was very grateful that we were able to do that.
Every child who comes under the care of child welfare is there because they've suffered abuse and/or neglect. Caseworkers are overwhelmed. Attorneys are overwhelmed. The system is overwhelmed. If a child does not have a CASA, which they are supposed to have by law in the state of Oregon, but the funding isn't there to support full capacity service here. But if a child doesn't have a CASA, they very easily slip through the cracks of the system. The CASA is the only person assigned to that case who speaks solely for the best interests of that child, who has party to the case status, legal status, so that they're a volunteer, but they have teeth. They have the judge's attention, they have the attorney's attention, they have doctor's attention, the school's attention, and they really make a difference in navigating services and permanent placement for that child. But the most important thing they do is get to know that child and show up for them. And that's what the child knows, and that's what the child benefits from personally, from their CASA. So every child is supposed to have a CASA, but without enough community funding, we cannot fulfill that mandate. For every CASA, it costs $950 a year. That's not very much money because we are able to leverage the volunteer power of their time. But without community funding, we can't bring on more volunteers, and we need more volunteers. It's the most impactful volunteer job, I guarantee, you will ever do. So we're here today with the Tom Bastian Award, And Tom Bastian was a beloved CASA and member of our board. He was an extraordinary human being. He embodied integrity, persistence, strong child advocacy, and so every year we award someone with the Tom Bastian Award in his honor. And that person needs to embody all of the things that Tom Bastian embodied, which is not easy to find. But this year we have found our CASA, Judy Corrupta. And Dan, would you like to talk about Judy?
Yeah, talk a little bit about Judy. So Judy's been a CASA for 17 years. She's advocated for 61 children in her 17 years. In addition to being a CASA, Judy has served as a peer coach for 9 years, mentoring many new CASAs in the service of children and families. Judy's longtime case was from November 2007 to November 2018, which is 11 years. She was appointed to this child who aged out of the system. Judy has not stopped there. She continues on with her advocacy even throughout the toughest times. She's seen such great successes for her kids throughout her time as a CASA. Judy's committed and literally puts her heart and soul into her volunteerism. She passionately engages with her CASA families. Her wisdom, her presence, her enthusiasm for service is felt with every kid she advocates for and every CASA she coaches.
We love you, Judy.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, you're very important.
This is really special because Tom was a friend of mine. Linda and I had gone to college together. And so I have a real tie-in with Tom. And one of the funny things about Tom is when he was thinking about being a CASA, we were at the golf course and I was trying to catch up with my golf friends, and he, knowing Tom, had 15 million questions. And, which was always a trait of Tom's that I'll remember too, because you couldn't go to a meeting without him wanting clarification or, a little bit more explanation. And I was like, Tom, I'm busy. But anyway, that was Tom, and he was very special. Linda's a very special friend. So it means a lot. Thank you.
This is your award.
Oh, thank you.
And we're just so pleased that you've been with us and you continue to be with us for this long, and all of the kids' lives that you've made a difference in. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I love CASA.
Thank you for attending this year's luncheon. I'd like to take a minute to have everybody consider the impact of these last couple years on your family, your lives, your careers. It's been difficult for us. Now, imagine the compounding factors of the pandemic on a child in need. We at the police department and our community should know this. We have interacted with children who have been living in tents and are homeless, in vehicles, and struggling for a place to go. That impacts me greatly as a board member, and I've given to CASA, and I would encourage you guys to help us give. And the reason it's so important this year is during the pandemic, kids weren't in schools, they weren't interacting with the people who were mandatory reporters. And so our numbers actually dipped a little bit on what we were seeing coming into the system. As we come out of the backside of this pandemic and things start to go back to the way they were with schooling, we expect our numbers to increase, and we expect our need for support to increase as well. I appreciate anything anybody can give, and I appreciate your support of CASA.
Thank you all for being here today. I hope this was informative and that you enjoyed yourselves. And please feel free to stay and chat with each other. You can move around tables and videos pop up, and you can have a great time this afternoon. Thank you again.